This is about the 5th time I've started this particular devotional on Even Though I Walk Through the Valley of the Shadow of Death. This is a hard topic, and it's hard to explain, and it was hard for me to study it, because this is a verse in the 23rd that we'd probably rather skip over. But it says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and imagine my surprise when I started studying this to find out that there's an actual place called the Valley of the Shadow of Death. It's in the Judean desert. It's a narrow gorge called Wadi Kelt. It's a 17-mile path. It's in a rugged mountainous area. And it's also said that this is the path that the Good Samaritan took when he found the person beaten on the path and helped him. That was interesting. But what I wanted to know was, why would a shepherd lead sheep through this treacherous path full of dangerous cliffs and animals waiting to pounce? One thing I thought about in life is that, especially when we're younger and we go to amusement parks, which rides do we seek out? We seek out the most thrilling, the most scary, the ones that we're going to throw our hands up and scream while we ride. But in real life, we don't want to scream. We don't want scary places. We want to be led around the valley of the shadow of death. Another thing to note is the word shadow. In order for there to be a shadow, there has to be a light. And this tells me that in the valley of the shadow of death, that there is a light cast upon our path so that we don't fall off a cliff, we aren't swept away by the wind, and we're not captured by a surprise attack. So perhaps the valley of the shadow of death is just a metaphor for the perils of life on earth as we pass through this passage when we're born and to life on the other side. There are a multitude of verses about being protected under the shadow of his wings, and about being hidden in the cleft of the rock. But what about this valley? It's dark, it's dangerous and narrow, and it stands to reason that we would need a light in order to walk through. Jesus said in this life we will have trials and tribulations, and in other words, there would be threats like disease, struggles, devastation, and all of those things. And I have spent a good portion of my adult life wondering how I can read the scriptures, find out how to escape all these things, and how to have a formula to pray so that these things don't happen to me, instead of looking for the light that is cast upon this valley so that I can walk through it with the shepherd. His presence is more endearing and more necessary than the answer to the whys of all of these things. We are called to walk through this valley of the shadow of death because the light of the Son of God is directly over us, leading the way. He's also calling us to walk through so that we can help others that have been left beaten on the path. In other words, the greatest commandment in the Bible is to love the Lord our God with all our hearts and love our neighbors of ourselves as we love ourselves, right through the valley of the shadow of death until life, eternal life. These words are then followed by the rest of the verse says that we're to walk through this valley without fear. But for now, rest in the fact that this valley isn't some scary place inflicted upon us by the shepherd, a place that wants to harm us. It's just the opposite. It's a place where the light shines to cast a path where we can walk with confidence onto the next place without fear.